Hi guys, welcome to Rufio, it's Joe here. I'm bringing you back one of my old favourites, my absolute favourite archetype of all time, Lightsworns. So I wanted to bring you a JD Turbo build today. Some of the kickback to the classics. Now, I've been thinking for a little while about how I wanted to do this deck, and one of the things that's become apparent is that the hit from Snow has made an absolutely huge dent in this deck's playability, much like it did for my beloved Burning Abyss. So what I wanted to do was just throw back and go back and play the old school JD Turbo builds. Now I tried to keep it as true as possible to the old school, but of course I wanted to mix it up with some meta relativity in there. I mean, the whole premise of this deck is to just turbo out JD, blow up the field, and just start smacking your opponent for game. Your games that you play with this deck are not going to go to time, so be ready to have plenty of thumb twiddling to do in between your rounds. So like I say, this isn't by any means the best version of the deck, and that's not what I'm claiming to do here. This is just a fun build that I've put together that I think you might enjoy if you test out yourself. I certainly wouldn't recommend in terms of value building this deck. Definitely don't use this as a barometer to go out and buy the cards. It probably isn't the best use of your money. However, this is stuff that I have kicking about in a mixture from things that I actually use on a regular basis amongst all of the cores that I keep. I just really wanted to put this together and just kind of showcase a fun build for you all. So let's get stuck in. So it wouldn't be JD Turbo without having triple Judgment Dragon. So triple of these, absolutely essential. You're going to want to see these as quickly as possible, get the 4 names engraved, and just muller your opponent. 1,000 life points to blow up their field, fair trade. You just get this out, blow everything else up, drop another one if you've got the second, summon anything, and basically just game them. It's that simple. And that's basically the whole premise of the deck, is we want to try and do that as quickly as possible. However, it's not always that simple, so we do need a backup plan and some other ways to play the deck. It is super fast, and we want to plow through these cards as quickly as possible. It wouldn't be any kind of Lightsworn build without Triple Wolf. So this is going to be your free summon whenever you mill it. Happens all the time. However, you know in reality, you're probably opening with 3 of these in your hand. That's how these things always seem to work. So, Triple Wolf just gets milled off. You get a free summon, free body on board. It's level 4, so it kind of has some fringe synergy there. And yeah, it's just one of the best cards. You absolutely have to play triple of this. No question about it. And in hand with that, we have Triple Raiden Hand of the Lightsworn. So this card is one of the, I guess you could say, newer ones that were printed from the support runs that were done later on with this deck. This is actually probably the best normal summon, I would argue, in this deck. Just being able to summon this, mill 2 immediately, and then mill during the end phase as well is just absolutely fantastic. It's a warrior, so it's easily searchable, amongst the fact that it's a Lightsworn as well, so there is that also. Searchable for those reasons too, and it's a tuner, so you can go into various Synchro plays if you would like to play Synchros in your deck as well, which we do in this build, but we'll go over those later. We also have 2 Felice. Triple Felice is way too bricky. This is different from Wolf in that the way it's summoned, it can't be summoned off a mill, off a spell or trap. It has to be off a monster effect. So it does limit the ways in which you can summon this. So for that reason, we don't want to have multiples where we have them clogging up our hands. We ideally want to be milling them off our monsters. And so with that in mind, we only run 2 because we want to limit the chances that we mill it in the wrong way and we don't benefit from the card. But when you do summon it, this is absolutely fantastic. Again, it is a tuner, so it has that kind of fringe benefit. But tributing to pop cards and then get free mills is absolutely awesome. Always welcome in this deck. We play triple of the original. Absolutely love this card, the classic Lumina. Love to have this in Ultra, it looks really, really cool. But yeah, just being able to get more bodies on board. It has lost a bit of synergy because when this was originally printed, it was printed as a level 3 and it was printed before the rank era came about. It would have been much better if this was a 4, but we'll take it for what it is. This is the zombie master of your deck. It's going to get you 3 Lightsworn summons. It's going to get your planes going. It's going to help you swarm the board. The cool thing with this is that you have multiples. You can actually just set up a row of them. So let's say you have one in hand and one on the field. You can just pitch one to summon the other one. As long as you have a valid target engraved, you can summon that one back out, and then that one's effect can go off, and so on and so forth. Pretty cool. But that's it anyway for those. We have double Lila. Again, just back row hate is really, really necessary at the moment. There are a lot of control decks about. So if you are going to play this at a tournament, and it is good for local level, I probably wouldn't take it anywhere beyond that. It's not built for kind of regional play. This is going to be a great way to just remove issue cards like Ghost and Match and that kind of thing that can really, really give you some trouble. With you, especially if you start going through your other plays. Obviously, floodgates like Rivalry, the Warlords will really, really hurt you. And, you know, amongst other things. Really good bit of removal. It also gets the mill, and it is also level 4, so it has that fringe benefit as well. And then we round off our Lightsworn monsters in the main deck with Little Minerva. Little Minerva just getting you that free mill on summon. Yeah, and she's just a tuner, so she's level 3. Again, it has some fringe benefits. It's going to help you go into some of your synchro plays. Moving on, we have some more monsters in the main deck. These are kind of just ones that I wanted to splash in that I felt like had some additional benefits of being played in the deck. Yeah, so I just wanted to add those for you. So we do have, and this is completely not budget friendly, so please don't scold me for this. We have Double Fantastical Dragon Phantasma. I feel that this is one of these cards that any deck that you can afford to put this into, you really should. Just getting free pluses is really important. This deck has some real issues with milling out really important cards, and it's something we have to recognize as an archetype. It's the reason that it never hit the peaks that we expected it to, is because of the randomization of the mills. Cards like this is going to help you draw instead, and that gives you more opportunity to put back brick cards. If you're milling important cards and then drawing Wolves and Felices, you're going to be in real trouble. This is going to help you shuffle those cards back into the deck, help you get through your plays, and generally speaking, I like to go second, so it's going to be a free body on board pretty much straight away. It does have the fringe benefit of being searchable, but we'll go through that in a minute. We then move on to our way to search that card, and that is Eclipse Wyvern. I'm just running the one of these. Again, primarily you're going to want to use it to search your Judgment Dragon, to go through your plays, to blow up the board and game your opponent. There aren't too many ways to remove this. Again, this is where Snow being removed from the game has some real hurt on this deck. Not being able to banish this Eclipse Wyvern so easily is something that we have to consider. So, in terms of ways to get rid of that, because we do want to be able to banish it to gain the effect, we are running the Chaos Dragon. So I'm running triple Black Dragon Collar Serpent. Again, this is going to have loads of light targets and graves. This is super easy to get out. It doesn't matter if you mill a second one because, yeah, it just doesn't at this stage. Again, you're going to run one like chain of these, and then after that, they're kind of dead anyway. And then we run the one Wyvern Buster. Now, the reason for this is that, A, we don't have enough dark targets to warrant running more, I believe, anyway, because this is really, along with Phantasmate is really your only way to do so. They are level 4s as well, so that's just fringe benefit anyway. But also, again, you don't want to be in a position where you're milling off these, and by having one, it reduces your chances of milling that off pretty significantly. But milling these doesn't really matter as long as you can get one, because it's going to search the other. That's essentially how it works. So 3 and 1 is surprisingly the correct ratios. Just trust me, try it out if you don't believe me. That's it for the monsters in the main deck. We move on to the spells. Again, we didn't want to go too crazy with these. There is a good amount, but not too much. Again, because spells are one of those things that are really hard to recur, if not impossible. And monsters are much easier to deal with. So filling your grave with monsters isn't so much of a problem. Filling them with your important spells is. So again, we run a lot of 3-ofs as much as possible at least. And then the 1-ofs, you kind of just hope to see them. So, given that it is a Lightsworn deck, you have to run triple charge of Light Brigade. This deck would just be so dead without this. This is such a good card. The fact that it mills for cost and then you get to search is just absolutely awesome. Your opponent is going to, be stupid to try and stop this, really. You've already got the mill. The mill is what you really want. The search is kind of just fringe benefit. We have triple solar recharge. So this is going to help you, again, just draw a mill. I absolutely love this. In weird ways, I kind of prefer this to charge of Light Brigade. I always have. I don't really know why. Maybe because I'm a scrub. Who knows? Anyway, Solar Recharge, absolutely awesome. Love this card. Just draw 2, mill 2, and you get to pitch one of your difficult cards out your hand. We then have triple Call by the Grave. So again, you're going to be milling out a lot of your spells because you will go through your cards really quick. So you kind of want to see one of these in your opening hand, ideally. along with the other 2 spells that we've seen already. So with that in mind, having 3 will help you to do so. It also increases your chance of seeing it. Of course, on the downside, it does increase your chance of milling copies of it into the grave, mathematically speaking, that is. But again, hand traps are going to really hurt your plays a lot in this deck. You're going to be going seconds, so your opponent's going to be setting up ways that they can just kind of interrupt you, and sometimes this has those fringe benefits of eliminating those issues, particularly if they are graveyard based. For another 3 of, we have triple twin twisters. Again, the same reason with the others. You are likely to be milling these out into the grave. You want to see one in your opening hand, ideally. Again, we're going second because you want to just blitz out that back row and get stuck into your opponent. This is going to help you get there. It's going to help your opponent get rid of your opponent's stuff that's going to trip you up from getting in your Judgment Dragon onto board. And yeah, all of that exciting stuff. We then move on to our one-offs in the deck. Some of these are okay, some of them are a little bit better than others, some of them are kind of spicy text, but we'll go through that in a minute. So we have 1, Monster Reborn. Again, you're going to be milling so much stuff that sometimes you are going to mill important cards into the grave, cards that are going to help you extend. This is just another way to extend your board. We have 1, Card Destruction. Being able to dump names into grave is really, really cool, especially if you can dump a load of dead ones like Wolf and Felice, and then gain stuff like Judgment Dragon in hand. It's going to really help you forward your plays. It can also cut your opponent a little bit, but you know, sometimes it helps them too, so that is something to consider before playing the card. A lot of the time you can read from your opponent's body language. People are really not very good at keeping a poker face in this game, especially not unless they're at high level events, and they will often let you know if their hand is bad. You're not going to play this card then. If they think that their hand is good, you're going to be able to read it on their face, and then you're going to really put them in some trouble with this. We have 1, Foolish Burial, because being able to send any monster in the deck to grave is absolutely fantastic in this. There's plenty of cards that are going to trigger off this. There's plenty of cards that you want to have in your grave. Foolish Burial is at 1 for a reason. You have to play it in this deck. We have 1, Reigeki. I'm normally reluctant to run this in decks these days. There's so much protection now. But I feel like another way to wipe your opponent's board is just another good option to have in this deck. Sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't. You could easily take this out if you don't agree. It's just something I like to have available. And finally, we have 1, Rota. Again, you have plenty of warriors to search in this, depending on your variant of the build, because I suspect highly that you won't stick entirely with this one. It might just give you some ideas of ratios or something fun to play with. Reinforcement to the army is going to have you an absolute ton of targets. Just adding a warrior to your hand is really cool. Again, it's at 1 for a reason, because the card is absolutely bonkers. Way, way more broken than it sounds just looking at its text. That is it for the main deck, guys. I don't have a side deck to show you, but I do have an extra deck, so let's cover that now. So we start off with 1, Michael. We are a Lightsworn deck after all, and we have plenty of ways to summon this. This is a good bit of spot removal, and it's quite easy to summon. It also has the benefit of milling at the end, which is just really, really cool. We have 1, Cyframe Lord Omega. This card, again, is at 1 for a reason. Ripping cards out your opponent's hand, letting them play with less resources is just always a really, really good thing to be able to have access to, and this is very, very easy to summon. It also has the fringe benefit of being a light, so it can go into some of your other plays. Yeah, it's just really, really cool to have, and yeah, I think you would be wrong not to run it in this deck. Finally, for our synchros, we have the brand new Boral Savage Dragon. So, Boral Savage is essentially just going to be 3 negates on the field. It's just going to have a massive body because you're going to get a link material attached to it. And it's just very, very cool. It's very, very easy to do. And again, if you're in a position where you're going to have to go first, you're going to want to be able to set up a board your opponent's going to struggle to break down. So the next turn, you can just absolutely wipe the floor with them. So yeah, that's it for the synchros, guys. There are plenty of others that you could consider running. Stuff like Trish, stuff like Briannak, that kind of thing. I quite like these. I don't want to overload on the synchros. Those are just 3 of the best ones, in my opinion, to be running. We then move on to our Exceed Summon Monsters. So this is pretty short and sweet. We have 2 copies of Minerva. Again, it's a Lightsworn deck. You want to see this. This is absolutely awesome to open with. If you can end on something like, say, a Decode Talker, one of these like a Boral Savage, you're in a pretty good place already. Again, it's just going to trip your opponent up. I tend to prefer rank spam versions of this deck. However, Snow being hit again is just a big hit for this. However, seeing this as quickly as possible is really, really good, and it's the reason that we always ran it in those decks as well. Again, on Destruction, it's going to be popping cards, you're going to be drawing cards, it does all kinds of crazy shit. So, really cool card to have. We also have 1, Bajinki Amaterasu. I had toyed with the possibility of putting Tornado Dragon. That is something that you could run in this deck as well by omitting one of the others. Bajinki is really, really cool though, because it just essentially gets you a free card back. So a lot of people look at this and they go, oh no, it's 3 level 4s, this is a big neg. Well, it's not really, because it kind of acts like 2, because you're immediately going to get one back in your hand. So that is something to consider. You can do it on both turns, that's kind of cool, depending on what effect you want to gain. But that's it for XE monsters. Nice and easy to summon. Again, all lights, so plenty of ways to go into things like Curious, which of course we are running in this deck. Finally, we move on to our Link monsters. So we have one Underclock Taker. Again, it is super, super easy to summon. It's going to help you go into OTKs. Your opponent has one strong attack position monster on the field. You can summon something big underneath, vanish it down to 0 or very close to, and just muller over it. And that's a really, really good way. The amount of times you'll game people just on that alone is pretty cool. We then have our usual Nightmare package. You'll see if I do a lot of decks, I will include this in. It's not just because I'm lazy or anything, guys. This is a really, really good toolbox. There's a reason that everyone was running this at one point. Sure, it's not quite as used as much anymore, particularly this card, but definitely these two you will see in most extra decks these days. If they have the space, they will fit those in. Cerberus is kind of just, again, additional utility. Maybe you want to go into a Link 2, but you don't want to commit into this. Then you can use this and waste it instead. But yeah, good utility cards, definitely worth running. We then move on to our final cards. So we have one Curious Lightsworn Dominion. So this is good because it has the downward arrows. You do give your opponent one, so that is the downside to this. But on the whole, this is very, very easy to summon, guys. Like, you have so many lights of so many different types. And if you resolve this, you can literally dump anything you want into the grave. Literally anything, and then you're going to get to mill on top of that. This card is absolutely nuts. And then when it dies, it's going to add a card back to hand. So if by chance you've accidentally milled one of your Judgment Dragons and you want to see it in your hand, then when this dies, you're going to get it back. So that is something to consider. It is really, really good for that kind of recursion. Absolutely must run it. I don't think more than one is necessary, however. We then have 2 more Link 3s. So we have one Decode Talker and one Topologic Trisbania. So Decode Talker is going to give you more zones. It's also going to give you some field protection because it can tribute monsters to protect, and Trisbania is going to help blow out back row, and that is something that this deck can struggle with. Again, that's why we have so many other options main deck to take care of that. This card's just absolutely broken against control decks and stuff like Altergeist and Subterra and all of that exciting stuff. We then have 2 Link 4s. These can be a little bit more pricey, but they are things to consider running. Again, you can take these out for other options. I really feel like we power through enough cards to get Skull Dread out. I can really, really justify, like, if you can afford this, again, it's probably going to get hit to 1, so in a few weeks, fully expect this price to come down. It is worth getting one of these. You will very, very easily be able to make 4 monsters to go into this Link play and grind through your cards, and hopefully you're going to draw that Judgment Dragon that you want, or cards that will help you get to there, certainly, or better cards that are going to help you out depending on your position, and shuffle your bricks back. Get rid of your Wolves and your Felices and that kind of thing that you don't need in your hand, put them back in your deck. We then round it off finally with one Borrelsword Dragon. So Borrelsword is absolutely bonkers, guys. I know this card is really pricey, and a lot of you that are going to be watching this, because it is a JD Turbo deck, I fully recognise that a lot of people who are going to be watching this are not going to be in a position to pick this card up. I fully understand, guys, so please don't crucify me for it. However, if you have access, maybe you're lucky enough to pull one, maybe you can borrow one off your friends, maybe you're just testing online, definitely include this card. There are other options. You could maybe go for the Utopia package. You do run enough level 4s to consider toolboxing it. However, you might want to take the deck in a different direction at that stage anyway. But that is something to consider. Again, I would definitely recommend running this if possible. But that is it for the video, guys. Thank you very much for checking in. Again, it's not intended to be super budget friendly. It is just a fun deck, something that you can play at locals. You will blow people up. People will not expect and not be ready for this deck, and you will just wipe the floor with certain people if they're just not ready. Like I say, it is good fun. Certainly not budget friendly in the sense of Borrelsword, but if you can cut those cards, you can make it so. And yeah, it's just, like I say, great fun deck to play, and I would recommend anyone testing it out for a good laugh, especially if they're online. Thank you very much for checking in, guys. Big shout out to Mark at Marniscrew. Go check him out. You can see his website there, and you'll be able to find a link in the description. It gives me this great space to record this. All the noise that you might hear in the background is all of them not popping off outside having fun with other card games and various other things, most likely Magic. So yeah, thanks again for checking in. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. I'm afraid that's all we have time for in this video.
If by chance you haven't had enough of listening to me waffle at you through a video about a children's card game, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. The links are on the screen, or if you're feeling really lazy, you can click the links in the description. While you're at it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content too. It'll make me smile, I promise. And who can ask for more than that? Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.